Welcome to Morning Brew. Start your day in the Word with Pastor Drew McComb each weekday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Grab your coffee and your Bible. Here's Pastor Drew.
Well, hey there. Welcome to Morning Brew with Pastor Drew. I'm Drew McComb, pastor here at the famous Little Brown Church in Nashua, Iowa. And all this week we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 17. So if you have your Bible open there, that would be great. And hope you have by your side a steaming cup of morning brew, cup of coffee, or whatever your morning brew of choice happens to be. We're on every weekday morning at 8 a.m. And all you need, of course, is your Bible and your good cup of coffee and an open heart to hear the word of the Lord. Over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of major decisions meted down from the Supreme Court, things to do with gun rights, freedom of speech, and things like abortion. The Dobbs decision that was made a while ago that overturned Roe versus Wade, and since then there's been a lot of contention between pro-life people and pro-choice people. I actually spoke yesterday in church about the abortion issue. And so for the pro-life side, and I'm part of that, the battle may have been won in some way, but the war continues. And both sides are gearing up for contention. November's election is going to be focused partly on that particular issue. But I think we need to remind ourselves that the battle to save unborn lives is not primarily a societal or a moral or a political battle. I believe at its roots it's a spiritual battle. And the Apostle Paul made that clear in Ephesians chapter 6:12 when he wrote, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." And so let me be clear right from the outset. Our enemy is not folks who are pro-choice. My wife and I have many friends who have that position. Our enemy is not doctors who perform abortions or politicians who support abortion at any stage. It's against those spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. And for Christians, we need to realize that we are in a continual spiritual battle. And so this week's messages are entitled, How to Win Spiritual Battles. In the passage I mentioned earlier, 1 Samuel 17, of course, it's the famous story of David and Goliath. It's the ultimate underdog story. You know it well from Sunday school. Goliath and the Philistines were confronting the armies of Israel in the valley of Elah, and the Philistine giant Goliath is there. And for 40 days, twice a day, he would challenge someone in the army of Israel to come out and fight him in single combat, and yet nobody came. Especially Saul, the king of Israel, who was, according to the Bible, head and shoulders taller than anybody else in the nation. He was cowering in his tent. He was unwilling to take on Goliath in single combat. And so it was left to a young shepherd boy called David, who was the youngest of his family of a man called Jesse, who was the only one brave enough to stand up to this monster of a man. And according to the Bible, Goliath was 9 feet tall, and here's this kid, this youngster, this teenager, coming along and being willing to face this giant. And we all love those underdog stories, and this is by far the best of the bunch. We always use that euphemism. It's a David and Goliath situation when we see maybe some football team, some college team that's nowhere ranked, playing against somebody like Alabama or Texas or whatever, and they win. It's an underdog story, and we love those kind of stories, except when they beat Texas, that is. So how did David manage to defeat Goliath? Well, we can learn so much from this particular story, how we can be victorious in the spiritual battles that we face. I think the first thing we need to realize and we need to do is we need to fight the battle that's right in front of us, because maybe God put it there for a purpose. Sometimes we get so distracted and try to tackle so many different things at the same time that we're not successful in any of them. We need to drill down and focus on the fight that's right in front of us. The initial reason David was there, of course, was to bring food to his brothers. But God had a very different purpose for him coming there. God had already anointed him to be the next king of Israel, but he had things to prove before that ever happened. As soon as he heard Goliath's taunts, he realized that he had been placed there for a very, very different purpose. And immediately his vision and his focus changed. No longer was he the delivery boy, the first Grubhub delivery guy in Israel to bring food to his brothers. He realized that God had put him there to rid Israel of this pagan warrior who was embarrassing the people of God. And that vision was not going to change until Goliath was lying dead on the floor of the valley of Elah. He had laser-like focus, if you will, on the problem at hand, on the decision at hand. And I think what I'm trying to say in this part of the message this morning is we need to fight spiritual battles in our life. We can't avoid them. Sometimes they're there right in our face, and they'll not go away by shouting at them or by turning our back on them, thinking it wasn't going to happen, that David is going to say to Goliath, hey, buddy, why don't we circle back and do it again maybe in 3 days or something like that. Give me time to think about this issue. David had to deal with it there and then. Couldn't ask it to go away, couldn't try and rebuke it. He had to take that battle on face to face. And so it is with us in spiritual battles, that procrastination is not an option. We can't put these things off. We've got to have faith in God and deal with it face to face. And so I believe we learn more about ourselves and others at times of spiritual conflict. And so my encouragement to all of you, if you're dealing with a spiritual battle right now, then don't believe it's going to go away. Don't believe it's going to change. Deal with it head on. Trust in God. Pray through it. Sometimes we need to do it by prayer and fasting. But whatever you need to do, tackle it and remember that the God who is behind you is always greater than the problem that's in front of you. So by God's grace, we'll talk about some more of this wonderful story in 1 Samuel 17 tomorrow and take it on to another level. So God bless you, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.